All right, how you doing? Good to see you. I'm sorry, the meeting is held up. We're still waiting for one official. I will now call the meeting to order. All members in attendance, yes, 4 of us are here. We will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We presently need a reorganization of our board. And do we have any nominations for chair?
I nominate you. I'll second it.
Oh, you voted. All in agreement? Everybody in agreement? Is that, it was all, everybody agreed?
Yes, ma'am.
Sad to say.
So, Chair McKay is appointed chair again by unanimous vote 4-0 of the all members present for the next fiscal year, calendar year.
Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda as of now?
Ma'am, we need to also appoint a vice chair.
I nominate Larry.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry. Is there an approval for the agenda?
So moved.
So moved. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have no minutes. Unfinished business. Dan, do we have any?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. We open the public hearing now with the variance 24-01. Peter,
You can stop right there.
Chair,
Thank you, sir.
staff would like to give a presentation.
Oh,
if that would
I'm
be
sorry,
helpful for
could
the
we-
board.
would you hold your comments, staff comments?
Okay. Thank you, Chair and members of the BZA. Next slide. So it's, this, to summarize this or to introduce the item, variance 2401 is a request to reduce the required rear yard setback for a new deck addition, which is partially constructed at the rear of the applicant's existing single-family home in the general residential zoning district from 25 feet to 9 feet 6 inches. I should just note that there is no permits that have been, zoning permits or building permits that have been issued for this construction today. Next slide. Background, the applicant has partially constructed a 488 square foot deck along the rear of his house, which is also the primary structure. No zoning or building permits were authorized for the deck addition. Since the deck is located within 10 feet of the applicant's house or primary structure, it constitutes an addition to the house, which requires a minimum 25-foot rear yard setback pursuant to Article 6-4, Table 6.41 of the R2 District Zone Development Standards, and pursuant to the definition of a primary structure. As proposed, the applicant is requesting approval of variance 2401 to preserve the partially constructed deck in situ for where it is, with a 9-foot 6-inch rear yard setback. The next couple 2 or 3 slides show the existing construction of the deck as it currently exists. These were taken on May 17th, 2024. So they're still recent. It's recent photograph and it still exists as shown. And you can see the applicant's rear property line there on the last part. Take it back just so I can get some orientation. You can see the applicant's rear property line. That's the vinyl fence there and white fence in the background. Okay, next slide. This slide provides a little bit of context that identifies where the applicant's house is, which is centered in the photograph. And it also shows where existing accessory structures are located around the applicant's property. There are a total of 5 accessory structures. Most of these tend to be sheds, garages, located immediately around the applicant's property, as discussed in the staff report. There's also was an existing structure located in the back of the applicant's property that is no longer there. Staff's research of the records not revealed any zoning or building permits that were issued for that particular construction, but as it is today, that no longer exists, and that is where the applicant has the partially constructed deck right now.
Thank you very much.
So,
Go, sorry.
sorry. Take a pause.
That's all right, that's all right. It's my problem.
Okay, thank you. As taken from the section 15.2-2201 of the Code of Virginia, the variance is defined in Article 20 definitions of the Colonial Beach zoning ordinance as, quote, a reasonable deviation from those provisions regulating the shape, size, or area of a lot or parcel of land, or the size, height, area, bulk, or location of a building or structure with a strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, and such need for a variance would not be shared generally with other properties, and provided such variance is not contrary to the purpose of the ordinance. It shall not include the change of use, which change shall be accomplished by a rezoning or by a condition of zoning. Additionally, section 15.2-2309.2, powers and duties of boards and or zoning appeals from the Code of Virginia states, quote, notwithstanding any other provision of law, general or special, to grant upon appeal or original application in specific cases a variance as defined in section 15.2-2201, provided that the burden of proof shall be on the applicant for a variance emphasis added for the underlined section, to prove that a preponderance of the evidence that his application meets the standard for a variance as defined in the section 15.2-2309 of the Code of Virginia and the criteria set out in this section. Therefore, pursuant to section 15.2-2309.2 of the Code of Virginia, the BZA may only grant a variance if the five outline findings are identified. One is that the property interest for which the variance is requested was acquired in good faith and any hardship was not created by the applicant for the variance. Two, the granting of the variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property and nearby properties in the proximity of that geographical area. Three, the condition or situation of the property concerned is not so general or reoccurring in nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation to be adopted as an amendment to the ordinance, or into the zoning ordinance. Four, that the granting of the variance does not result in a use that is not otherwise permitted or such property or a change in the zoning classification of the property. And finally, five, the relief or remedy sought by the variance application is not available through a special exception process. And just for the BZA's reference, we do not have a special exception process in our zoning ordinance that would address this. This is why it's before the BZA's variance. Next slide. So pursuant to the Colonial Beach zoning ordinance, Article 17-5A2, the BZA must make all of the required findings below to approve a variance application. Staff's findings are summarized in the blue text as taken from the staff report before you for variance 2401. So the first finding under our zoning ordinance is that the strict application of the ordinance would produce undue hardship in that, and the summarized findings in the staff report are as follows: that there is no extraordinary skewing or irregularities of the applicant's property line that would frustrate meeting the rear yard setback requirement of 25 feet. The applicant's house currently meets the required 25-foot rear yard setback as calculated on the site plan. It's actually the house itself is 25 foot 8 inches to the rear property line, its closest point. Three, the surrounding properties meet the minimum required setbacks. Four, the applicant created a self-induced hardship being capable of meeting all the required setbacks for a detached accessory structure to develop a deck on his property at the rear. B, that such hardship is not shared generally with other properties in the same zoning district and in the same vicinity, in that there is no evidence of any prior variances approved in the applicant's immediate neighborhood for similar circumstances of the applicant's variance request. And second, that the applicant's property and those of his immediate neighborhood exceed the minimum lot size requirement of 5,000 square feet from R2 zone property. Next slide. The finding C is that the authorization of such a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent properties, and that the character of the district will not be changed by the granting of the variance. In that, first finding is that a 9 foot 6 inch rear yard setback would be detrimental to the adjacent property owners because it would set an unjustified precedent that would entice owners with similar principal structures to make similar variance applications, eroding the well-established 25 foot rear yard setback requirement for the R2 zone. Second, that the 9.5 foot rear yard setback is inconsistent with the statement of intent in the R2 district zone ordinance, which is meant to, quote, promote open areas. This is an essential characteristic to, quote, to promote a suitable environment for family life, unquote, in the R2 district zone, as discussed in Article 6 of that ordinance, of the R2 ordinance. And then third, the required 25 foot rear yard setback between the properties is designed to help reduce volume, bulk, mass in between structures on adjoining properties to help create a harmonious and compatible relationship in the neighborhood with the adjoining properties. D is that the variance is authorized only after the hearing is advised are advertised according to public noticing requirements in this article, and shall have been held in that all public hearing noticing requirements were fulfilled for this meeting tonight. E, no variance shall be authorized unless the board finds that the condition or situation of the property concerned or its intended use of the property is not so general or reoccurring a nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of a general regulation to be adopted as an amendment to the zoning ordinance. In that, staff finds one, that there are numerous R2 zone properties in the applicant's neighborhood that meet the minimum required 25-foot rear yard setback. Two, that the applicant could successfully construct a rear deck on his property as an accessory structure. Several accessory structures have already been built on the adjacent lots around the applicant's property. And these are the sheds, the structures that I showed you earlier in the presentation around his property. Third, that the applicant created an unnecessary self-induced hardship by developing a deck that can be designed as a detached accessory structure to meet the strict requirements of the town zoning ordinance. The proposed deck reflects the applicant's preference in lieu of the required R2 development standards. And then this slide basically is in reference to the specific requirements on the board's